Week 5 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few running backs I looked at off the wire this week. The first running back, Trey Sermon of the Indianapolis Colts. So Jonathan Taylor, he left that ball game in week 4 with an ankle injury. And now it's a high ankle sprain, and we'll see how long he's going to be out with the injury. Taylor said he's fine and he should be good, but high ankle sprains we know are very tricky. And we've seen players miss months with those high ankle sprains. Even though Taylor feels fine now, we'll see as the report comes out and more testing on the ankle to see what the diagnosis is and if he'll miss any time. So right now I think Sermon is the top end. High ankle sprain's not great news. Even if he feels good, it doesn't mean he could cut, shift, and go out there and make plays and just Jonathan Taylor. And also we saw him lift the game and he didn't return. So Trey Sermon, he had a small workload in last week's game versus the Steelers. 5 carries, 8 yards. With the schedule coming up, Jacksonville, pretty good matchup in week 5. Tennessee, middle of the pack, and Miami in week 7. So high ankle sprains, sometimes they take 3 to 5 weeks to heal and get 100%. And we've seen it a lot in the NBA. We've seen it in NFL. When you're just explosiveness and you're cutting and running is just not the same with that ankle sprain. So I believe even though if it's minor, Jonathan Taylor's going to miss some time. And we know he's got ankle injury concerns throughout his NFL career, especially the last season. So right now, I'm assuming Taylor's going to miss a few games. And anytime you can get a running back who's going to have a starting role and get a majority of touches, he's a top priority on the list. And Sermon right now is available in 99% of fantasy leagues. Next running back, Rico Dowdle of the Dallas Cowboys. He's surprisingly out there in 52% of fantasy leagues. And he looks like the number one back for this Dallas Cowboy team, with Ezekiel Elliott getting a few touches here and there, and Dowdle going out and starting the first 3 games for this Cowboy team, and Deuce Vaughn mixing in a little bit as well. So on the season, I think he's been all right as a back-end flex option or a bench player for now. Is Rico Dowdle for this Cowboy team. Week 2 versus New Orleans, 7 carries, 30 yards, 4 catches, 29 yards. Week 3 versus Baltimore, 8 carries, 32 yards, 3 catches, 24 yards. And week 4 at the Giants, 11 carries, 46 yards, 1 catch on a 15-yard screen for a touchdown. So this week, a tough matchup, no doubt about it, at the Pittsburgh Steelers. But at least in a game where the Cowboys were close after they got blown out in week 2, and week 3 were trailing by 3 touchdowns until they made a late comeback, there wasn't much for Dowdle to do, even though he's the passing downs back and a better receiver out of the backfield than Ezekiel Elliott. But like I said, they played in a close game, and what a lead that was. He actually went out there and had a good ball game with 13.1 fantasy points in PPR leagues. So right now, he's available in 52% of fantasy leagues. And running back, we've seen a lot of guys go down and inconsistent play. I think Dowdle's a decent ad this week. Next ad, Kareem Hunt of the Kansas City Chiefs. Kareem Hunt, after Carson Steele fumbled the football, he was pulled, and Kareem Hunt got a big workload in week 4 off the practice squad. 14 carries, 69 yards, 2 catches, 16 yards on 3 targets for this Chief team. So it looks like Kareem Hunt, he might be the guy over there, unless Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns sooner than later, where he's supposed to practice this week for this Kansas City Chief team. But I believe at this point, Kareem Hunt, running back than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, could catch the football out of the backfield, and he's pretty good in short yardage work as well, is Kareem Hunt. But like I said, once Steele fumbled that football, Kareem Hunt came in and he got a majority of the work. I don't think his ceiling is high, but he's a running back that's getting carries, he's getting touches, and looked decent in the season debut. And Kareem Hunt available in 65% of fantasy leagues, and after getting a nice workload, definitely someone to add off the wire this week. The next ad is his teammate Samaje Perine of the Kansas City Chiefs, available in 75% of fantasy leagues. And Perine and Hunt out-touched Carson Steele in this one, like I mentioned with the fumble issue. So Perine, 5 carries, 14 yards, and a touchdown. And surprising, he didn't get any receptions in this game as Samaje Perine. So the Chiefs, they just got by in that ball game, 4-0 on the season, and they're winning pretty much with a makeshift running back room and a platoon. So the last couple weeks for Perine, week 3 at Atlanta, 6 carries, 25 yards, 3 catches, 15 yards. And then, like I said, week 4, not much work, but did get the goal line touch and found the end zone as Perine. So if you need a running back, bench piece, or a flex option, worst case, we'll bye week starting in week 5 here. I would give Perine an ad this week. The next running back, Justice Hill of the Baltimore Ravens. Justice Hill, he's been solid so far this season. And Derrick Henry, what a ball game it was for him on Sunday Night Football versus the Bills in the blowout victory. 209 total yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. But Justice Hill still had a big role in that game, and it wasn't just garbage time stuff. He had 6 catches, 78 yards, a touchdown and 4 carries, 18 yards. Justice Hill weekly, he's carving out a decent role as the passing downs back, but this was his best game to date on the season for this Baltimore Raven team. And now with bye weeks coming up, I think Justice Hill could be a back-end flex option in those deep 2 or 3 flex leagues, in 12-team leagues or deeper. Because like I said, he's going out there and he's getting anywhere from 8 to 12 touches a game as Justice Hill, and one of the better receiving backs out of the backfield in the game. So like I said, coming off a nice performance where him and Derrick Henry both had good workload in that game. And then week 5, I think we're going to see a little bit of the same at Cincinnati, a high-scoring affair for this Baltimore Raven offense. And the last 2 weeks, their offense has definitely kicked it into gear and gone out there and make plays. So right now, Justice Hill, definitely someone I would add. With the bye weeks coming into play and coming off a big game, I'm not expecting him to go out there with those 8 to 12 touches and get 15, 20 fantasy points, but definitely someone who could be serviceable in that 8 to 10 point range. The next running back's Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars. ETN, he was banged up a little bit in this ball game with a shoulder injury, but he returned. But Tank Bigsby, he looked impressive in that ball game in a tough loss at the Houston Texans. Only 7 carries with 90 yards, including a 54-yard run that obviously got the majority of his work. So Bigsby, he's been on the list a couple times this season. His best game of the season was here at the Texans in Week 4. Week 5, a tougher matchup versus the Colts. But Travis Etienne, he's definitely losing some touches in this backfield. And if Bigsby could continue to run, he's going to be someone that's going to help this Jaguar team and get more playing time. And we even saw in Week 1 he had 12 carries for 73 yards. So when he gets a decent opportunity, Bigsby's shown explosion. He's running hard in between the tackles, and he's a physical running back. He's not going to do much in the passing game as Bigsby, but definitely someone in between the tackles. I think he's more physical than Travis Etienne and someone who can handle maybe that workload a little more at times. So I think right now this could be shifting this backfield to maybe 70-30 in Etienne's favor, or even a 60-40 as the weeks go on, where, like I said, Bigsby's more of a fit in between the tackles and more of an early downs back than Travis Etienne, where he's more of that elusive and a catching back out of the backfield, where he's got that breakaway speed. I'm not saying Etienne should lose all his carries, but definitely something interesting where I think Etienne could get 15, 18 touches a week, and Bigsby could be in that 8 to 12 range, where Etienne will still be the leader in this backfield, but Bigsby will get some carries and possibly goal line work. So Bigsby definitely an add this week off the wire. Next back I look at off the wire is Dare Ogunbowale of the Houston Texans. Ogunbowale, he didn't get many touches in this game, where Cam Akers had 13 carries in the Week 4 victory versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Ogunbowale, game-winning touchdown in the closing seconds of that one. 2 carries, 7 yards, 4 catches, 47 yards. And the touchdown, like I mentioned, to win the ball game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Joe Mixon, he did practice at the end of last week, but he couldn't give it a go in pregame warm-ups. Akers, like I said, he was the early downs back. And Ogunbowale, he was the passing downs back, and he came out and had a nice ball game to win it versus the Jaguars. Right now available 99% of fantasy leagues. And some of these running backs I'm mentioning in the back end are deeper leagues, Ed. But you never know. Running back, a couple guys go down, next man up gets an opportunity. And that's what we've seen this week with Ogunbowale for this Houston Texan team. And the final running back I will tell you off the wire is Jeremy McNichols of the Washington Commanders. So this Commander team, they're finding many ways to win, and players that most fans or casual fans haven't even heard of are going out there and making plays for this Washington Commander team. 3-1 right now. So Jeremy McNichols filled in for Austin Eckler, who's out with a concussion in this game, and he's available 99% of fantasy leagues. And he was a great change of pace back for Brian Robinson, who had another 100-yard rushing performance. McNichols, 8 carries, 68 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a catch for 6 yards on a target. So like I said, a nice two-headed monster was in this ball game in the blowout victory at the Arizona Cardinals for this Washington Commander team. So if Austin Eckler misses more time with the concussion, he's going to have a role in this offense, obviously. And he went out there and had a nice ball game, available 99% of fantasy leagues. That's a few running backs I looked at off the wire for Week 5 of the fantasy football season.